Gundam.tk presents Providence Gundam. Hey again, it's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs from YouTube and Gundam.tk, and the 1/100th Providence Gundam. All of those plates have turned into those parts, but let's turn those parts into the mobile suit and see if, despite this not being a master grade, it's still gonna stack up as a bad guy for your master grade freedom. When he's assembled, I have to admit that at the beginning I was a little worried that this guy would come across as being too fat, and when you get used to newer kits like master grades, I'm sure he'd be probably a couple centimeters taller in terms of plastic model form and just stretched out and elongated. But with this one, it seems to do the job. You get the sense of the power, and it goes back to the GPO2A. I think you can see a nice lineage there. The legs look good, they're not too stocky, the waist is big even without the dragoons, and the huge shoulders are going to provide that sense of proportion that are going to work when you put on the backpack. Here's a zoom in on the upper body where you can see the effect of the yellow parts, the piping, the red, and the black parts around the head. Overall, still quite a positive impression. For posability, what you can do is you can bring the front armor forward and the leg can come up for a rather awkward looking kick, and off to the side you can bend up the side armor, and even though they're on just a polycap and hip ball joint system there, they actually bend out more than you'd think. The actual legs are going to bend and give you the 135 here, and the ankles, as mentioned, that black part just drops into the foot when you put it together, and it's going to bend forward and back and side to side quite well. So lower body, surprisingly good articulation for a big bulky guy. Upper body, all you can do is move the waist around this much, so nothing fancy there. Remember, nothing moves at all on the chest. The arms are going to go around, rotate, and you're going to be able to bend the arm up 90 degrees, so don't expect anything like reaching across to touch the other shoulder, and the head is just on a simple ball joint, so that's all it's going to be able to do. At the end of the day, though, nobody's going to be buying the Providence Gundam trying to pull off all sorts of wild red frame-like poses. The idea is to have this guy armed up and ready to blast his opponents with all of the weapons at his disposal. And when you attach the backpack on, it's time to bring the camera back because he has added a lot more height. I'd like to check out the height and see what that is when you add on the backpack. But in terms of visuals, first of all, when you add on these dragoons down there, it sort of gives you the impression that you've got 8 of them shooting off, even though that's not quite correct. The 5 on the backpack, of course, are going to be the ones that draw most of your attention. But I really like the way that the shoulders come through there, and he really does look bulked out, tall, if not a little bit simple, and there could have been lining. He really does give me the impression, though, of being a 1/100th as opposed to a master grade. For height comparison, here on the right you have the gold frame, or the Gundam Astray gold frame Amatsu, the big bad from the actual Gundam Astray manga, and here on the left, the Providence, the big bad of the anime. Bring these out. You can see that in terms of filled out, the Providence certainly is, the Amatsu certainly can. Don't forget to check out its review, but in terms of height, with the weapons on, there's not going to be too many Gundams, I think, that are going to match the Providence. For arming the Providence, you're just going to take the manipulator apart, but you can see just how well or poorly this fits in hand. Some sticky tack or some sort of system is going to be needed unless you're hardly ever going to use this thing. It's even worse when you put it in hand because it's just going to flop all over the place, but in addition to that, you're going to lose the ability to bend the elbow very much, although actually you can prop it up there, even though that's going to offset the weight, so maybe putting it over the shoulder is the only way that this is going to stay in place. Fully armed, this comes across as a guy who has a ton of firepower, although there are a few problems with it. First of all, the shield. Losing the hand doesn't look as good, I think, as I did, or as I thought it would when you put it together. And that beam rifle, it really gives the impression that because the right arm can only move 90 degrees, that it comes across as being just a little bit stumpy and too short. Certainly not what you'd expect from a master grade of this kit. The overall impression, still good, but I almost like him better without these 2 weapons on. For dynamic ground posing, the beam rifle is working over the shoulder better than I expected. The shield, again, still looks a little bit awkward, but as he spins around here, those feet are actually spread out just quite a bit down there for a kit of this style. So, in terms of action, not bad, but I don't know how many other poses there are going to be. Bringing the beam rifle across the other way is going to set up a new set of problems just because that shield isn't going to work if you want to bring the hand across to use that handle, and again, a slight breeze is going to knock it completely out of whack. Not terrible, but something that you'd certainly want to work on just to get it a little more impressive looking. A similar pose with a new weapon, the feet are doing a pretty good job, although you have to work on that center of balance, but the shield certainly looks a lot better, I think, when it hides the hand, and when it's coming across that large beam saber, completely changes the visual effect of this guy from a range guy into somebody that you don't want to tangle with melee style. And I'm glad it looks good in that one pose because there's not really too many variations that you can do with this. Because the arms are just not so poseable, you can't get into the very cool slashing poses that you might get from a higher grade suit. Something you can try doing though is bending the dragoons down from the backpack and swinging the waist skirts up, which is going to give you sort of a full burst mode as Rao gets really angry and decides that somebody's going to have to pay for all the horrible things that have happened to him in his life. And even though in the past I've knocked things like the High New Gundam and the Strike Freedom full burst mode for having those clear gray parts which allow you to take the dragoons and the things that they shoot off and put them in impressive poses around here, it's unfortunate that the Providence's most prominent feature, taking all of these and sending them off to fight somebody while he stands there and rambles on about something, it's unfortunate that you can't do that unless you've got a really cool wire system or some sort of nice display to put these up, because this is the way he should look good, and unfortunately it doesn't come across that well in plastic model form. No, still doesn't really look that good, does it? So that'll wrap up my look at the mobile suit mode. Some things are better than expected, however the dragoons and its most impressive thing can't fully translate, which is always disappointing, but to be expected. Anyway, everybody, stay tuned for the next and final part where I give my final verdict on this, what I think about it, and then hopefully that'll help you in deciding whether it's something that you want to get. But why don't you let me know what you think of the looks and the posability and the poses that you can do with this guy with a comment down a little below. Anyway, everybody, Robert184, Gundam.tk, thanks for watching. See you next time. Great to have you here. Bye. I guess it's always sort of this shot that I should be recreating. Perfectly in scale.